We're a little bit past the Mishnah, where it says Hanevad at the two dots. Okay? Hanevad, a field which was worshipped for Avodah Zarah purposes. So these Tani, there are those who learn Bein Shalo, Bein Shalacher, whether it's you worship your own field or whether you worship somebody else's field, also makes the field forbidden. Is Tani, there are those who learn Shalo also, if you worship your own field, it makes it forbidden. Shalacher, but if you worship somebody else's field, it's permissible. They wanted to say, Manda Amar Bein Shalo, Bein Shalacher, Moser, he who says that whether it's his field or somebody else's field becomes also if it's worshipped, that is Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Mandamar Shalo Aser, he who holds that his field is Aser. However, Shalacheri Mutter, if it's somebody else's field, it's permissible. That's Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, who hold Eino Dam Mekadesh Dover Shein or Shalo in our Mishnah. Person cannot make Kilayim that which is not his. So too, a person cannot make Aser as Avodah Zarah that which is not his. Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Rabbi Law. What? Yeah, we just started. Right. Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Rabbi Law said, everybody agrees on this issue, meaning that everybody agrees that there's specific parameters which we follow. What are they? Kamada Tamar Tamar, just we linked by animals. Davar Sheish B'Ruach Hayim, something which is alive, an animal which is alive, and it's worshipped for Avodah Zarah purposes. Even though it's not forbidden for a commoner to use as regular food. It's forbidden to use a carbon because it's disgusting. Now, the kavasa, so too, davar she'eino shelcha, something which is not yours, even though it's not forbidden for a regular person, for a commoner, it becomes also for use as a carbon. So, or for use in a mincha, or whatever the case may be. So the parameters are: you can't ask for something which is connected, you can't ask for something which is not yours, but you can make it objectionable for use as a carbon. Okay? Yerushalmi Kilayim consider Meir. In our Mishnah, where it says that if I, according to Peter, that I can answer my friend's wheat, and if I stick my grapevines over his wheat, so only Rabbi Meir finds me to pay for it, because Rabbi Meir is the one who we know is doing dina de garmi. There's a halacha which said that instead said grama dini what?
Out of the past.
Out of the long past.
But goody.
So the halacha which says grama b'nizakin is part. If I cause damage to you, it's so I'm exempt from paying. But garmi is when I don't just cause it indirectly, but rather I directly bring it about. And although this is not a good analogy, but the analogy which I use to define it, it's not halachically correct, but it's a good, brings the issue into focus. Is that if I open a gate in front of a cow, and the cow goes and eats in the field, so that's groma. If, however, I slap the cow on the rump, and the cow then goes into the field and starts eating it, I direct it, then that's dina de gamri. So a much more direct cause.
And forget about the halacha aspect, because some people incorrectly translate garmi as being, it's not really direct. It's still an indirect. I'm not mistaken. I think it's still an indirect form, just more direct than indirect.
Correct. Right. It's still indirect, but it's more direct than groma. Right. I didn't say anything to the contrary.
No.
Direct is you would take the cow and lead it out.
Right. That's direct.
That's direct. So here we have the same idea. Here, my placing my vines over your grain, I'm not doing a maisa, right? I'm directly causing the grapevines to grow over your grain and to answer it. That's called dina de garmi. So according to Meir holds that that's better than groma, or I should say more liable than groma. So it's good. So you're chayiv. And Yerushalmi uses that as the lush of knas, because Yerushalmi holds that there are many reasons given if you look in the Tzaddik Pit Tammuz that goes through them as to why dina de garmi, what the logic of dina de garmi is, and why it's separate from groma b'nizakin. But here the Yerushalmi holds just the knas. The Meir holds that you did something maliciously negligent, so therefore you're chayiv as a knas. So that's what he holds. It's just a kanas. So fine. So therefore, in our Mishnah, he finds if you ask your friend's field by putting your grapevines over his field. Sometime later, the Gemara will see that Reish Lakish followed the Psak of Rabbi Meir. We learn out from here. Hamisakech es gefagafno. Agabi tfosler shel chavero. If so, we're on the bottom, Lama Gimel on the base somewhere. Okay, Hamisakech es gafno. Agabi tfosler shel chavero. If somebody creates a canopy with his grapevines over his friend's grain, so our Mishnah says that you're chayiv. Chimasa maisa. What did you do? You didn't do a maisa. Rather, that when the grapevines go out over the grain, it's with your intent and you're causing it. That's Dina the Garmi. Charbarnash, along these lines, Charbarnash Chavi Saleh the Rabbi Lazar. Interesting case, a person was about to receive a coin as change or as a purchase price, so he took the coin which he was about to give and showed it to Rabbi Lezer. So he asked Rabbi Lezer, is it a good coin? I'm sorry. He says, so Rabbi Lezer said to him, Tabri, it is a good coin. That's the statement. He said, it is a good coin. Later on, it turned out the coin was rejected. It was possible. It was a counterfeit coin. So this might came from Rabbi Shimon Lakish, the Kansei, and he fined Rabbi Lezer to reimburse the fellow who showed him the coin originally. Minador, why? From the following Mishnah.
This is actually malpractice.
What?
This is really a case of malpractice.
This seems to be malpractice. It's not 100% malpractice because he doesn't seem to have been a professional. So you can get him practicing without a license, but he wasn't necessarily a professional. Professionals do malpractice. He was practicing without a license. So it's not exactly the same thing.
It's worse.
It's worse, could be. But in any event, it's not that I think though you need a license for, it's not like medicine. So in any event, so says the Gemara, we can't say Rishim and Lakish find him from the following mission, which says Amar Adina L'Shuchani. If you show a coin to a money changer and he says it's good, V'nim Tzara, and it's turned out to be bad, Chayiv L'Shalit. In that case, the money exchanger has to pay you back. Why? In here throws a very interesting principle. They should know say sachar. There were a case where the money changer himself took the money in order to invest or extend as a loan and so on and so forth. So therefore, since he makes money off his taking your coin, so therefore he's a shomer sachar. Since it's shomer sachar, he's a paid watchman. Since it's a paid watchman, if anything goes wrong, so so then he has to pay for that occurrence. So here, if it turns out that because that it was possible, so he has to pay for that occurrence. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Lezer knows ischar. If that's the case, how can Rabbi Lezer have to pay? Rabbi Lezer never took possession of the coin. It certainly wasn't making money off of it. So why is he chayiv here?
Was Rabbi Lezer a shulchani?
No, he wasn't a shulchani. That's the Gemara's kasha. So why is he chayiv? So it says more. Rabbi Yaakov Barach B'Shem Ravuna said, "Hamachzik bo kenosei schar." If you hold on to it, it's as if you're nosei schar. Meaning, he's doing din of the garmi. He says it's as if you directly caused the loss because you were holding on to the coin and looking at it and saying this coin is okay. So therefore, if you're wrong, that's like doing din of the garmi.
Yeah, but he was doing him a favor. He wasn't nosei schar.
Never do favors.
It says masabo means if you does it literally mean holding it in your hands, or does it mean maintaining possession of it for some passage of time?
I believe the former.
Just holding it in your hand?
Yeah.
That's why I question that also. Why was he nosei schar?
He's not.
Examining it.
No. Here is kin nosei schar. He's like a nosei schar, right? That's garmi, paid watchman. Okay?
That doesn't make any sense.
Why not?
Why? Just because you hold it?
No, but it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not the holding it. I'll explain it to him.
It's kenosis.
It doesn't make a difference. What do you mean
He's holding
ken?
it like he's a paid watcher.
But he really, the reason it's chayav is not because he's a pay watching, but rather because of what?
Practicing without a license?
No!
Volunteer.
Dina the Garmi. Because he's causing a loss, because he's giving the guy wrong advice.
Right, that's correct.
He's misleading him. He's causing him a loss.
I can understand that. So anybody, it's not just a position overall, but anybody who'd be in this position gives somebody bad advice.
Even if somebody's licensed. Yeah. If anybody gives another person bad advice, according to this Gemara, we're dying Dina Garmi. We sue him for it. Hey, modern Americans do that all the time, right?
Towards 101.
No? You don't sue people who give you bad advice?
But if they are not experts in the issue, then you have no right to rely on their advice.
Oh, well, that probably is the distinction, because it seems that Rabbi Eliezer was not an expert. Yeah, we gave him the status of an expert, and therefore he should have gotten it right, and that's why we're doing Dina Garmi.
But in modern malpractice law, if you're liable whether you're an expert or not. In fact, you're more liable because you're more culpable. You should have referred the patient onto an expert, to a specialist, rather than practice medicine outside
Right,
your
but you're a doctor in their case. For instance, I am a lawyer actually, I don't practice. But if I give somebody advice, I can be sued for it because I'm technically, they're relying on my source.
You are a lawyer?
Yeah. I have a license. I
Uh-huh.
practice for a company that couldn't stand it, so
He didn't do a mice. Talking is not a mice. Other than flapping on the lip.
That's why it's doing Dina the Garmi.
yeah.
That's why it's not a Maisa. You're right.
Garmi is a mice.
You know it's not. Garmi is directly causing a loss. But it's causing. Well, because if I put my grapevines over your field, I'm causing you a loss.
That's right.
Okay? Because you're going to lose your field. It's the same idea. Okay? Look,
halacha like this. I don't see
we pass on Dina during Dina Garmi. We are Machai people. In this specific case with Rabbi Eliezer, I don't know for sure. So in any event, says more further. Rabbi Yosef Rabun Lo Markain. Rabbi Yosef Rabun said didn't say like this. Rather, El Rabbi Eliezer Mar can't say the Rabbanan. Rabbi Eliezer says it's a knas of the Rabbanan. In other words, all rabbis are doing Dina the Karmi. Rabbi Shimon Lakish alone, Omar can't say the Rameir. He's the only one who attributed doing Dina Garmi to be the exclusive province or mayor. Everybody else held that it's a universal principle.
So, no, according to this, any incorrect tshuva given by a Rav to a Shiloh.
CH 44 suing your rabbi for malpractice.
CH 44.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Night cold. Yeah. Yeah, she can sue your rabbi for malpractice. There's a whole Gemara in Sanhedrin. Donis Adin Zikos is Chayav Chiyav is a Zakai. Mashal Saseh V'Shalimi Beisel. It's got to make restitution.
But there doesn't depend upon the kind of mistake you made.
He made you get married because of the kids. Yeah. What?
It doesn't depend upon the kind of mistake you made, whether it's total or issue of total.
Yeah. It does. It does. But the bottom line is that the chiv, there's also chiv of doing din of the garmi. In the case of your chayiv there, you didn't actually do a mazik b'yadayim. I mean, the Gemara tries to he put a sheretz on the grain, whatever the case may be. But generally speaking, the understanding that Gemara, the conventional understanding that Gemara is that the Gemara is b'chayiv because of doing din of the garmi. That is the underlying chiv there. Okay? Says the Gemara, kad asa uvda, it should be kad, not kach. Kad asa uvda, when the soul meiser Rabbi Eliezer and the coin came from Rosh Shimon Lakish, Shar Shimon Lakish Rabbi Eliezer, or Shimon Lakish asked Rabbi Eliezer, Ahu hang knasa deman. According to you, who charges for Dina the Karmi? What do you hold? Amar lei, so he said the Rabbanin. I hold that all the rabbis say, not just Rabbi Meir. Shlaki said to Eliezer, l'shitascha, that all the rabbis hold of doing din garmi, puk shalem. You have to go out and pay for the loss you caused because you are a classic case of doing din garmi. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Hakol modim meri by season point by novim, by grapes, shein asuros." So this is the cases like this. I put my grapevines over your field, your grain field. So Rabbi Yochanan, everybody agrees that although my grapevines don't answer your wheat field, or at least that's a machlokas, everybody agrees that your wheat field will answer my grapes. Okay, because I put them there. It says Amar Amalei Rabbi Lezer said no. Ha'oser eino nesa, that which caused this did not become forbidden. V'sheinu osero nesa, you want that which should just be supposed to be that which does not cause this, rather becomes oser. You want that to become nesa, to become prohibited. This is a very cryptic Gemara, but it's a fascinating explanation. The Stipler son brings rayas that it's the grain coming into contact with the grapes that cause kilayim and not vice versa. The grain causes grapes to become ulcer, and in itself. It's not that the grapes cause the grain to become ulcer in itself. Okay?
So what does that mean?
He brings out a pasuk where it says, "Lo tizra karmecha kilayim pentita shamlea zera asher tizra utvua sakerem." The seed which answers the tvua sakerem. That's where he dashes the pasuk.
So the osir being the grain is eno nesa, is not the osir. She'eno osir.
Nesar? It's a bitmiya. It's a rhetorical question. So it's saying, again, as you pointed out, osir, the grain, which is the catalyst of Isser, in this case, eno nesar, does not become osir because somebody else's grain. The she'eno osir, the leaves of the grapevine, which normally does not create this, or the Isser comes to the other direction. Nesar, you want that to become osir, so therefore, according to Eliezer, the grapevines do not become osir in this case. According to Rabbi Yochanan, they do. According to Rabbi Eliezer, they don't.
We had yesterday or the other day we said about the trellis where the vine is over the wheat.
Yeah.
That answers the wheat, but the wheat grows above the vine on a hill or slope.
Yeah.
Would not answer.
Right.
So that's
Speak directly above or directly below. That's the case of toy about here. There, where you put your grapevine over into your friend's wheat field, so it's directly above.
Talking about side by side.
Right. Okay? Says the Gemara, Mapla pligan. What are we talking? What is the argument concerning? When you put your grapevine over your friend's grape. So what if I put my friend's grapevine over his grape? Good practical joke, right? Ruvain, shucks! I just put your grapevines over your grain by accident. So in that case, it's too bad. It does become kilayim. Eino the moser darvashen shalo, but here it's both shalos. So that's okay. I can use my stuff to make your stuff awesome. I can use your stuff to make your stuff awesome. That's what it says. Right, all sorts of things. Right, that's right. But that's what we don't teach most people kilayim. So they don't play practical jokes on people.
Or just being mean. I mean, that's not a joke.
Right. Okay, so again, Psal Gavto Shel Chavero, Agabi Tvoso Shel Chavero, Shmini Miadot, so in the wrong case. Alright, yesterday said, Maisa Be'echot Shezoras, Kalmo B'Shviyis. This individual who planted his vineyard during Shemitah with grain. Rabbi Akiva, the mice came from Rabbi Akiva. Bamar Einodam Makdish Tova Shenoino Shalo. Person cannot consecrate that which is in his tree. Shemitah and other trees are his. So it says Gemara, Hare Eina Gefen Shalo, Veina Tvur Shalo. In this case, we say the vineyard, the vines are not his, and the grain is not his either, and therefore he can't asur it. Right, that's right. And the same thing would apply over here. That wouldn't be.
That he actually sat there and he could. Since it was possible that having been the sheep actually make the transfer.
How we extrapolate from this?
If he wanted to, he could have done it at that moment. That's the difference. He could have done it at that moment.
Second. Let me go back 3 lines. You put his vines over his grain. Or his vines over his grain. I realize I made a mistake now. I skipped something. Let me go back a line before that. So if I put my friend's grapevine over my field, then it answers my field. Okay, because then I'm using his grapevines in order to create an isser by me. I can do that. That works. Okay? So I'm I take his grapevines, so on my grain, hare elu. In those cases, everybody agrees in that case that the grain becomes osir. That which is normally called this, in this case, becomes osir. Now we have that other case. Somebody who puts his friend's vineyard over his friend's grain. The Shmini Adot in this case. It's my individual planted his field during Shemitah. Person cannot consecrate that which is not his. Right? Hare ein hagefen shalo vein atvua shalo. Where the geffen is not his because it's Shemitah, and the grain is not his, so in that case it's okay. And there's a refutation. In other words, we see that. Still confused.
In the Shemitah case, it's nobody's. In the other case,
yes. So Gemara holds that chiluk is not mechalik. Gemara holds the chiluk of in the Shemitah case it belongs to nobody. Here it belongs to somebody else, not mechalik. Just like by Shemitah, if I plant Shemitah stuff in a Shemitah with other Shemitah stuff and it conflicts, I can't answer it because ain't the most of davar shein shlo. Because during Shemitah the field is not mine. So too, if I take my friend's grapes and make a canopy with them over another guy's over his own grain field, I can't ask them because they're not mine under my jurisdiction to ask them.
After I married her,
so you can't ask your friends. I said before that we could ask.
We're being right that you can't. In the case of Shemitah, you can never ask your friends. We said your friends can ask for you, and here we're saying that you can't ask your friends. Okay, that's what we're saying in this case.
So I'll give it to you then, but it'll take effect now, so that way I can't back out.
What do you mean?
The practical joke was that you took his vine and his grain.
That's right, you can't because I messed up that line before. That's the line I messed up, and that's why it's confusing. Okay? Says Mishnah further. So in any event, so it ends with Harela Gemet Shalo Vein Atvua Shalo. Harela Gemet Shalo Vein Atvua Shalo. in this case where neither the grapevine is his nor the grain is, bitosafta, and we said that you can't create kilayim, and so too by us as well. Ha'anas, somebody who steals yards, or a real estate thief. Shazar is a care. He planted a vineyard and then planted wheat in the vineyard. And now the bandit went away. He abandoned the field because it was no good. You can harvest it even in Chol HaMoed in order to prevent further deterioration and further problems. Now, but the thing is, what happens if you don't harvest it during Chol HaMoed? Or then you would lose all claim to it. Well, not you would lose claim to it. It'll become. I'm not making this case clear. Let me start again from the Mishnah. You have a bandit who planted the kerem and left it now. You got to harvest it whenever you get it back, even if it's Chol HaMoed, in order not to allow kilayim to take place. Because after all, he planted grain in your kerem. So in order to prevent kilayim, you have to immediately dig it up, even if it's Chol HaMoed. Puts the Gemara in a caveat. Says the Gemara, how much you have to pay workers above and beyond what they normally make in order to get them to work on weekends and take down this, this Kilei Kerem situation. Says more at shlish, a third more. Yerushalmi Kilayim, if it's more than a third more, which the workers are demanding, so then kotzer kedarko, then you harvest as quickly as you can individually. And you can start on Chol HaMoed and continue even after Chol HaMoed. When, however, is a person called an anas, meaning if a person stole a field, but the incident is forgotten long enough, so then a person re-achieves his respectability. When does he re-achieve respectability? When he loses his name. Yishakar, when he loses his name. That when he loses his, reputation as a thief. Right. Exactly. Statute of limitations. Okay? So when people stop calling him a thief, they call him... They call him real estate magnate. At that time, he's already considered to be. At that time, it's considered to be his, and he now becomes the owner vis-a-vis the Isser of Kilayim. Okay. Rabbi Bar Yaakov, B'Shem Rabbi Yonah said, "Kini masnisin." This is what the Mishnah says. Mutal l'kotzer afilu b'moed. You can even harvest Chol HaMoed if it's in order to prevent Kilayim from taking effect. A kamenos to point wherever that's only if you don't get gouged by the workers. How much is the maximum you have to give to the workers in this condition? Ad shlish. So only a third more. What's a third more of what? Rav Sheshes Chadamar once said Chad shlish is Chad, only if you have to give them up to 33% more in their salaries for that work. You give them a third of the value of the entire field, which is a lot more probably. You have to give them that much. From when his name is forgotten, Rabbi Yaakov said, if the original owners are forgotten, they have not yet ever given hope of getting back their fields, then the status of this is that it's just the right. In other words, that there's mamish tevel here, there's mamish stuff which is not properly tight, because he didn't have the right to tithe it. It wasn't his, right? If the Bailim gave up hope of ever getting it back, however their name is still associated with the object, so then Yisur Midi Ibrahim. Neither rights to Tzaros and Yasser Rabbanan. The Yesh Karka Nixal asks the Gemara, is there any way, where do we ever find that stolen land that belongs to new owner? Stolen land still belongs to original owner, because not something which comes under your explicit jurisdiction that you're going to have full ownership of it. Says more Rabbi Lo, the truth is, even though land cannot be stolen, here the guy gives up hope of ever getting back his field. So since the guy gives up hope of ever giving back his field, so in this case we say that no. Well, yes, he does lose it. In this case, Yeush works. In other words, if there are very few images on which one to concentrate, for instance, where I don't know. Well, how should I put this?
So what happens if the Anas leaves and they already made a year? So is it hefker?
What?
The Anas left. But the Baalam, the original Baalam already made Yerush.
Yeah.
So what happens? Is it hefker now?
Yeah, it's going to be hefker according to this. So again, let me do that over again. Even though land cannot be stolen, there's the point at which Yerush works. In other words, it's like kind of like this, like relinquishing ownership. Even if the first guy doesn't actually, even the second guy doesn't actually acquire it in the classic way, but since the first guy relinquished ownership, and the second guy was there, so therefore reverts to the ownership of the second guy. Kind of like I would say, if if Coca-Cola went bankrupt, right, and Pepsi took over all its assets, so then it would all be called Pepsi, right? I mean, come on, it's fine, it never happened, right? But then it's all called Pepsi. What? Right. So that would all be called Pepsi, right? Was there ever any hakna? Did Coca-Cola ever maknet? It's not a great analogy, but Coca-Cola ever maknet? No, not necessarily. Pepsi just came in and take all the assets, right? It becomes theirs. So to here, there's no such thing. Again, it's not a great analogy, but there's no theft by karka. Theft is not a form of acquisition. By metalfin, there's a form of acquisition called theft. The parameters in which theft gives you ownership, like it or not. By land, there is no such thing. But once de facto it's been taken over by somebody else, and it's nishtakeh shem bailam mishoy, the first owners are forgotten, that de facto now belongs to the second guy. And the same thing is true with the anas. Even though there's no way in which his theft can acquire it for him, by definition, after some time has elapsed and it's in his jurisdiction. Okay? And he can then sell it and whatever the case may be. So it's kind of like the lost Nazi art from the Second World War. You know, the same idea? That maybe after it's been missing for so many years, there's a kind of statute of limitations, and the original owner can no longer claim ownership. So the same thing applies to the Anas over here. To his advantage, obviously. And once he's had it for enough time, so the original owner can no longer claim ownership. Alright, am I so clear? Okay? What? That's true. Yeah.
You have something like that in the Second World War.
Yeah.
It's called hostile something. It's endless possession. Endless possession. You're taking possession of somebody else's property openly in a hostile fashion, and you're there for a period of time, I think it's 7 years, and no objection is made by the other party. Then it's yours.
That's like chazakas. Yeah, the same idea, right? Okay. So from that, again, from the time that the anas, from the time the original owner's name is forgotten and the anas is taken over, it becomes the anas's. And the anas has prerogatives, which is really an amazing thing, but that's what the Gemara says here. Okay, next Mishnah, Ruach Hey. If you have so there's an area in which the wind is constantly causing the grapevines to go out over the grain, Yigdor Miyad. You have to make a fence immediately to make sure it no longer happens. If some unforeseen event keeps you from doing it immediately, so that mutter, then you can wait somewhat longer. If you have grain which is inclining underneath underneath a grapevine, V'chein b'yerek, and so too if you have vegetables which are inclining underneath the grapevine, machzir v'eina mekadesh. So when you see it, you can turn them back, and it's not going to be mekadesh automatically. For when can grain become kilayim? Bishatashlish, when it achieves a third of its growth. Novim and grapes, Shashkul 11, when they become the size of small legumes. If you have grain which is completely dried, it's completely mature. Talking wine which is completely grapes which are completely mature. So then there's no kilei keren. Enam iskachos, because it'll be something where already they still have some what? Growing to do. Because the parameter is 1/200th more of growth in the presence. In other words, if an apple grows 1/200th of its growth in the presence of a grain, so then it answers.
So is there a possible scenario where you'd have mature ripe grapes and mature ripe wheat?
Which will make lime?
That doesn't make lime now, but how could it have gotten to that point? And how to have been together to begin with?
That's a separate issue. But right now, this kind of issue, this kind of scenario, not looking at antecedents.
Yeah, but there's no way of...
Right, there's no clear way of doing it, knowing it all the time. That's because he didn't know.
I'm missing something very fundamental. What did decline by
Yerek and Karen there is. Yeah. No.
Of course, trees can only be...
Only with graphic, right. It's graphic. Just like grain in vineyards, right. Only fruit trees, right. Though it's also the Rabbana non-fruit trees too, we saw at the beginning here. Okay, ask Gemara. Ben Azai Yisaper, like Ben Azai, just cut instead of putting up a fence, cut off where it's swaying into the wheat field. Ashkech Tani Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yachzir, because we found right, says Rabbi Akiva says you turn it back and build a fence. Rabbi Akiva Ben Azai says just cut it off there. All right, so Enochanami, like Ben Azai, we cut it off, not turn it back. Meimasai miskadeshes. From when can it become maser? Mishatash is when the third growth. East Tani, there's another time which says Mishatash once it takes root, which is much earlier. Mad Tani here the gears is messed up. Ready? Mad Tani mashrish. You said in a moment when it takes root, it already can become maser b'kilayim. We say Rabbi Yochanan, that's like Rabbi Yochanan who said in the previous perek that that you're not allowed to have any type of grasses. Even grasses already. You had a case like that. He said if it's grass, turn it over. If it's stalks already, then remove the kernels from the stalks. If it's kernels, it becomes also. So there we see that even if it's grass, you got to overturn the grass of grain growing in the vineyard because it's going to become also. So that's Rabbi Yochanan saying here as well, right? Rabbi Yochanan is saying here that according to this opinion, we should tashmish. That the moment that it takes root as kilayim, that's already sufficient to forbid it. Okay? So again, mandatani misha tashrish, that has to already be severed on kilayim at the time of birth. We say Rabbi Yochanan, that's Rabbi Yochanan said it was very stringent on this parameter. However, Manda Maramisha Tashlish, who says it only becomes kilayim once it grows a third of its growth. So according to him, Misayel Rabbi Yeshua said way back when, the same case Rabbi Yochanan was discussing before, that in a case where you have grass of grain, which is growing in a vineyard, so then it doesn't answer it, because there needs fruit in order to actually make it also. Okay? So if there is no Isser, so then if there's no Isser, no physical Isser, there's no manifestation of the development of the fruit yet, can't yet become Asr and Kilayim until it's a fully third grown. That's like I said previously, that if you have foreign grasses of grain growing in your vineyard, then they don't become Asr yet, because they only become Asr once the fruit or the kernels enter where they're supposed to be lodged. Okay? We said in the Mishnah that grapes, once it becomes a small legume, are
Wait.
All I have to do is be kind of.
Hold on. What if he said
Right? One.
That's when it can become kilayim, once it reaches that level of maturity. So it says more the Rebbe Hillel, the Chsiv says Tevuas HaKerem. Any produce of the kerem, including even the youngest produce. Kilimas Nisin. However, you should understand the Mishnah. There's a way to read the Mishnah. Eina miskachos. When the Mishnah says that the dried wheat grain or the is not mitame.
I don't know what the difference is.
It's not that's not matami. It's that it doesn't become kilayim. Generated by a growth of 1 to 100 together in tandem, right? So here it's not growing anymore. It's fully mature. So it says, well, you know what? It's true. That means they cannot become kilayim, but they can make others kilayim. If you take this vineyard with dried, it's fully mature grapevines, and make an awning with it over your grain patch, so then the grain becomes also, because the grain goes 1 to 100th of its growth in the presence of a vineyard. Am I making myself clear?
Everything's right.
Yeah.
The grapes are right and the...
No, that's the catch. If that was the case, neither would become Aser. You're talking where the grapes are ripe, but the grain is not ripe, right? And as the wheat grows in the presence of the grapes, even though grapes are not growing, the wheat becomes Aser.
In a scenario where everything is ripe,
yeah,
I would think that would be the ultimate Marasayan. Because everyone looks and say...
It would. It's Aser, but it's not Mekadosh. Because you can pop the grapes in your mouth as you take them away because of the Marasayan involved. That's what it means. Okay, you're not allowed to leave it like that, but it's not doesn't make us about no. Right, atitz nokuf. You have a perforated pot full of grain, and you pass it through a vineyard. Mekadosh b'kerem. B'sheina nokuf. It's not a perforated pot. Ain't a mekadosh. It doesn't make it kilei kerem. Right, b'sheina because it's a separate entity. B'sheina omer zevizeh asurim v'lo mekadoshin. In both these cases, it makes it Aser, but not Kadosh. Because he holds even a perforated pot is not really considered to be connected to the ground. If you pass your perforated pot through the vineyard, before passing back through, it grows 1 200th of its total growth, then it's Aser.
All the time.
All of the shots, getting wherever it applies, they're going to say the same thing. That's right. Okay, Tani, we learned Ein Bein Otzitz L'Sheino. We have a kasha. Tani, we learned the Brisa Ein Bein Otzitz Nokel V'Otzitz Sheino Nokel. No difference between a planter which has a perforation or doesn't. That extra throwing bivad. Only that which grows in a perforated pot requires hechsher. Well, hechsher doesn't work on it because it's considered to be to a certain extent as if it's still connected to the ground. It can't be mushul kabel tuma. Only if it's severed from the ground can be mushul kabel tuma, and that's the only difference between otzitz nokov sheino nokov. Says more Rabbi Shimon. That's like Rabbi Shimon. That's the only difference. Begam kerabbanan. Now we're like the rabbis. Is charani. There are other differences such as otzitz nokov mekadosh b'kerem. If you have a perforated pot, it makes the kerem forbidden. If it doesn't have perforation, it doesn't make the kerem forbidden. If you uproot something from a perforated pot on Shabbos, chayev. What are you chayev? Death, right? Because it's going to be mechubel karka. If you uproot it from a pot which is not perforated, then pots you're exempt. Otzitz nakuv. Finally, this case which Gemara just mentioned, otzitz nakuv, a perforated pot. I forgot what this means.
She died.
No, this is really what we just said. It works. Otzitz nakuv eino machshiris azroim means that if something is growing in a perforated pot, so you pour water on it, it's not mukshal kabel tuma. It's still mechuber to the ground. Whereas v'sheinu nakuv, if it's not perforated, machshiris azroim, water falls and it's served from the ground. So machshiris azroim, whatever's in it being makabel tuma. Rabbi Yossi just said it without giving a reason for it. Rabbi Chanina Mati Babashem Rosh Yitzchak, he brought a Doshan in Rosh Yitzchak. Hatoya Chivsa Tara B'Srei. The Torah was extra special in granting special degrees of Tara to seeds. How much the Pasuk teaches us? That if the dead carcasses of animals fall on any zera, which is still planted in the least bit way, it's still Torah, it's not Mushal Kabel Tuma. What's a zera which is planted in the least bit possible way? It's in a perforated pot. It's not Kabel Tuma. Says the Gemara, Tani, we learned. Otzit Sheinu Nakuf, if you have a non-perforated pot, Masroisa Me'aloch, giving Ma'aser, and it's only Midrabanan. And if true from that pot falls in somewhere else, it doesn't create meduma because it's not bona fide. It's not bona fide truma. It's not bona fide meiser because it's a non-perforated pot. It's not connected to the ground. It's not chai mitzvah luyos ba oretz. It's not part of the oretz. Says the Gemara. If you eat it's true. You're not chayav a chomish. Extra chayav to pay the 50 extra fine. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi asks if that's the case. Can you say on the bread made from hydroponic grain, so we paskin as long as there's dirt in there. But hydroponics is not kashayla because there's no. It's not it's not a doma. It's water, right? So there's a shiloh. It's not clear what you do in hydroponics. I think the minhag is to make the bracha that you make even if you weren't in that locality. Okay? Rabbi Yonah asked, Cain, it should be not a Cain. The last Kitolushu I'm not going to get it anyway. So if you're going to get it I will be I'm not going to be not again glass. Not about glass. You planted. He's going to get still so far. Where are you planting it? You planted a gourd tree. Not. Oh, I remember now. Not at last. In order to make schach has to be served from the ground. What if you have gourd trees? Not the gourds themselves, they're not germane. Could be barren trees too. But if you have trees growing out of an otzitz sheinu nakuf, can you use it for your sukkah schach or not? Is it considered tolish? That's the shiloh. Otzitz sheinu nakuf is considered tolish or not?
It sounds like
yeah. Huh?
It sounds like it's not connected to the ground.
And it should not be.
Which means it's okay for schach.
I mean, it should be okay for schach, right? Gemara doesn't answer though. Doesn't give any answer. No. I think it's probably I don't think it is good because of technicality. We'll see. Rabbi Yossi Bar Pazi Poi. He asked the question. You planted 5 grapevines in 5 different pots. In this case, she'ein nekuvim, even if they're not perforated. Do you have the word she'ein nekuvim there? I have them in parentheses. But it's correct. She'ein nekuvim, if they're not perforated, well, so when you put them in the proper formation for a karam, 2 of a neck, opposite 2 vachas here tizonim and 1 coming out as a tail, atar mekaramu. You say it's a karam. So what does he clearly here? That even in an otik she'einu nakuv, by a tree, it's considered to be as if it's perforated. You know why? Why by a tree is it considered perforated?
Because the leaves get nourishment from.
In other words,
That's the Yerushalmi. The Bible says the leaves stick over the side.
Yes.
He says differently. Yerushalmi holds because eventually the base is going to explode. The roots of the plant are going to burst out. So therefore, it's considered as if it's a rei nakuv, even though it's not yet a rei nakuv. It's nakuv in theory, if not in practice. Okay? Okay? Says more. Wait a minute. How can this be? V'yesh kerem metalto. So that means that you can have a case of a kerem which you can stick in various different places. Oh, today I'll put the 5 like this. Today I'll put the 5 like this. Today I'll put the 5 like this. Are they all different kromim? And each day asks for different grain? It's a very difficult concept. But the Gemara doesn't answer. The Gemara just remains with the kasha. Shmuel says, where are you passing this pot of plant under each and every grapevine? Rabbi Yoel said, it's over the grapevine at the height of 10 tvachim. Heavier chamisha tzitzim. If you pass 5 full jugs.
It's not an obligation now. Potential obligation.
Yeah, it should be heavier chamisha tzitzim nekuvim. You passed 5 perforated pots. Tachas agef v'nachas. Underneath 1 tree, under 1 grapevine. To fluk the Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yochanan. It's a machlokas Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yochanan. Why is that in this case? So,
I pay out when it says on top of the top.
The case is like this. You have a grapevine. You're under this grapevine, you're passing 5 times grain. Each time you pass one of the things of grain, it grew 1/1000. At the end of the 5 things of grain, the grapevine has grown 1/200.
He's inheriting his brother's
5 1,000s, which is 1/200. So now what's the status? The individual parts of grain can't become usher because none of them grew 1/200. Each one grew 1,000. What about the tree itself? The tree itself grew 1/200 when it was in contact with various different plants of grain. So can that be enough to ask for the grapevine? Am I making myself clear?
And he's not a
Okay.
shemesh.
One tree. Here's the grapevine. You pass 1 pot, 1 pot, 2 pot, 3 pot, 4 pot, 5 pot. Right? The grapevine grows in a shear. But each one of these, since they're 5 pots, are only growing 1/1000. So the grain can't become usher. Can the grapevine become usher? So it's going to be same as Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lezer before, where that which causes the isser, the grain, doesn't become usher, can still ask for the other thing or not. Okay, that's that machlokas. And the more brings it down. Tiflug the Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yochanan. Hoser ein on esar, v'shein hoser nesar kun Rabbi Yochanan. The grain doesn't become usher because each one only goes to 1,000. The grapes are going to become usher, but according to Rabbi Lezer, yes, of course they will. Because Rabbi Lezer does recognize that distinction. What about the opposite though? You passed one pot of grain under 5 different grapevines. So none of the grapevines are also, but what about the pot which is now grew 1 to 100, always constantly the presence of grapevines? So this Gemara says, everybody agrees that the grain is also. Why is the grain also according to everybody in this case? Obviously, because the grain is the Oser, right? And the grain itself, therefore, is not contingent on anything else becoming Oser. In and of itself becomes Oser, and that's sufficient.
This is right to what you said earlier. The grain is the opposite.
The grain is Oser, that's right. That's the way to explain the sugya. Okay, we'll stop here for today. We finished the parak. The plan is to finish the Masechta next Thursday. At the start, the following Monday, Shvius, to try and attract as many people who are just learning Bavli right now.